You are listening to WBHM Digital Broadcasting, the best in paranormal talk radio.
Reaching all the way back to 1948, Fate magazine has brought you reports of the strange and unknown, all of them true. Fate Radio is carrying on that tradition. Here is your host of Fate Radio, Kat Hobson.
Good evening and welcome to WBHM Digital Broadcasting out of Birmingham, Alabama. You are listening to Fate Mag Radio, and I am Kat Hobson, your host. I would like to wish everyone who is celebrating a happy Easter. I would also like to say that to the people of Sri Lanka, I mispronounced that, but that's okay, they know. We are with you. I am so horrified and terribly sorry that this nation has been attacked, and I just wanted to put that out there because evil does walk our earth, but the light does too. So just take care of you, and we will too. Before we bring in tonight's guest, I have just got to say that I am very excited to be hosting Dr. Barry Taff. He holds a doctorate in psychophysiology with a minor in biomedical engineering. He is probably, I would say, one of the pioneers of parapsychology. He worked at UCLA's former parapsychology lab, easy for me to say, laboratory. He was there from 1969 through 1978. He was a research associate, so he got a lot of hands-on training and experience working with subjects. He has investigated over 4,500 cases. This includes ghosts, hauntings, poltergeists. He's conducted extensive studies in telepathy and precognition, which I'm interested in as well. He has actually been involved with remote viewing research, and I've experienced that as the vessel that someone remote viewed through, so I'm interested in having that conversation too. There is so much to learn from this man. He has, oh my gosh, what hasn't he been on? He was on Coast to Coast AM with George Knapp. He has been on Hard Copy Sightings, Judge for Yourself, The Extraordinary, The Will Shriner Show, The Other Side, Haunted History, World's Scariest Ghost Caught on Tape, The Girl Next Door, An Unknown Encounter, and something I found interesting, California's Most Haunted. He has been a consultant with the CIA, the Office of Naval Intelligence, the National Security Agency, Defense Advanced Research Projects Agency, the FBI, Interpol, LAPD. Oh my goodness, this list just goes on, and if I go through everything that he's done, we are never going to get to hear from him. I do want to let you know that his book, Aliens Above, Ghosts Below, Explorations of the Unknown, is fascinating. And it's available. You can get it on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, CosmicPantheon.com, everywhere. And I have to ask you, Dr. Taff, are you tired of hearing all about how wonderful you are yet?
I don't know, but actually I am, but I'm not. I appreciate the glowing comments and discussion of the last 50 years of my life, but in a way, it's been a weird sort of half century for me, because you attract strange people in every respect, and you think it'll make your life better. But in some respects, it's made my life worse, because I thought that by appearing on the right shows and radio and news in newspapers or journals or publications and publishing the right things, it would help you become more productive in your work. And if anything, it was the opposite, that getting too much attention early on in the media didn't serve to help me at all. It served actually as counterproductive. So it's great to have done all this, and I'm glad I did it. I wouldn't want to change anything. But it then comes back to haunt you in a really strange way, where a quick story. Some years ago, okay, I co-own a number of medical device patents that I have with one of my colleagues. He's a medical doctor who I met in the lab at UCLA way back when. And so we developed them. We got patents. We did some clinical validation studies. We built early prototypes. So wrote a business plan, and we ended up getting it to a really large multinational firm that does develop and market medical technologies. And the second in command read it. He really liked the business plan, and we passed it upstairs. And weeks go by, and weeks go by, and months go by, and months go by, and we're getting no response. And so I finally made contact the best way I could, and I was able to talk to the man in charge upstairs by accident or good timing. And
timing is all.
He said, for what I've read, you've never done any work at all. These are not devices. The whole thing looks like it's fake. And he started making statements that in no way correlated to the business plan, which I didn't write. It was written by a professional, a person who specializes in writing plans for medical devices. And he started making these weird comments, and I finally stopped him. I said, "Sir, look, I'm tired of what you're saying. It's boring. You didn't read a word of the plan, did you? Come on, tell me the truth. You didn't read one word of it." And yes, you're right, I didn't. He said,
he was
the reason
honest.
I didn't, well, he said, the reason I didn't, I looked you up. And he said, you're crazy.
Oh,
You
my
know all
word.
this weird stuff, this paranormal garbage and UFOs and everything. Come on. We're going to waste our time and energy dealing with someone like you. The minute I found out who you were, we threw your business plan out. We burned it.
What a
And
guts.
that's real common, because if you've never gotten a lot of money and made a lot more money with it, to business, you're a risk. If you throw in the parapsychology end of it, from my end, you're even a bigger risk, because people think you're crazy.
That's true.
Forget all the TV shows and the movies and the academic studies that have been done. It doesn't mean anything, because when it comes to business, hiring you or working with you in a professional clinical manner, people are terrified.
I find that odd.
When I finished my education in 1975, completed it, I applied for teaching positions or positions as research associates in different places throughout the world. No email, it was all snail mail. Sent out applications everywhere. And most of them never responded. A few trickled back, and they said, by mail, they said, you've got a lot of nerve expecting us to hire someone like you. What? Well, they said, first of all, you create a, what was the word they used? A hostile work environment, where people would either be frightened of you or want to talk to you about what else you were doing, and it would create chaos in the workplace. And we want a wheel and a cog. We don't want someone who's going to create waves, who make people think, well, show up, do your job, and go home. Go home,
Really?
right. And they said we could never hire someone. Well, first of all, we don't hire celebrities. You've appeared on all these shows. This is in the 70s already. All these shows, all these newspapers and things. We could never hire you. Hostile work environment, too big of a risk. You create chaos, total chaos. And I went, wow. They said, no. So my background's been intriguing, and I wouldn't change it for anything. But it came back to haunt me very quickly when I came out of graduate school. I thought, oh, this is great. No, actually, it wasn't great. So it was very difficult to do anything other than keep working in the field, which I did until the lab closed.
Well, I wanted to ask you about that laboratory experience that you had. I know that it actually closed in 1978.
Correct.
Well, I have an acquaintance, a friend who was trained through a facility at Berkeley, if I'm not mistaken, and psychic abilities. Is that institution at all like the environment that you were involved in?
I don't know. Well, I know that at Stanford, University, they had the SRI, Stanford Research Institute, which did this formal studies on the remote viewing stuff with the government and the military and all that. As far as Berkeley, I don't know. I think I was up there a long, long time ago giving a lecture, but we had no formal association with that other than it being another UC campus. I don't know what was done there. I don't remember any names linked to them, but it doesn't mean that work wasn't done. It just means that no names I come in linked to Berkeley. I remember Dr. Jeffrey Mishla was up north from where I am in Los Angeles, and I don't remember exactly where he went or what he did, but maybe he was involved with this. I don't know.
I was just curious because it seems that all of the work that was being done in this field that I can find was being done on the West Coast. Would that be an accurate statement?
Well, I get some of it. I mean, there was being stuff on the East Coast. There was stuff at the Foundation for the Research Nature of Man and the old Duke, the laboratories at Duke University that was going back some ways. Work was being done. Oh, God. I'm trying to think. So long since I've talked about some of these people. There was work up on. There were people. Jesus, I can't remember the names. I'm terrible with names now.
That's okay.
There were some really good people working up and down the state at UC Davis. Stanford wasn't part of the UC system, but it is on the West Coast. But I'm trying to think. There was. Dr. William Roll used to be on the East Coast. Then he ended up, I think in Georgia or something like that. But there's no, the money that went to fund remote viewing was pretty much linked to a Stanford Research Institute. They did some really, really good work, which was quite demonstrable as to what the ability can do. And then afterwards, if I remember correctly, the work was reevaluated by a professional debunker. And he said that, it was all nonsense. There was no phenomena. The whole thing was incorrect in their interpretation of the data because the people were fooled by what they believed in. And it was an utter waste of time. I thought, what?
What an open mind he had.
Well, I mean, I knew who the guy was. I didn't know him, but I knew who he was, and that didn't surprise me. So they have these debunkers do a whole other set of statistics to reevaluate what was done with the SRI and remote viewing, which is, again, so quite specific, state-specific, and very precise and accurate at times. And the new statistical breakdown demonstrated that, there was no remote viewing. It was all fantasy or wishful thinking. So let's see, tens of millions of dollars was spent. They got no results, but they kept doing it.
Well, the U.S. government was funding this. I mean,
that's what I'm
as
saying,
well as the Russians.
Right. And one of the good things that came out of the Russians' interest in parapsychology, what they called psychoenergetics, was the fact that without that competitive edge, the United States, no one here would have ever gotten interested in it. It was a little too strange, a little too off the norm, a little too fringe-oriented. It's amazing. There was trying to think. I remember when Uri Geller was really big in the 70s, and he did up to Lawrence Livermore, Berkeley, and he did some experiments there. He performed on him and all over the country. But there was one instance, if I remember this correctly, where they gave him, I think it was at UC Berkeley, might have been at one of the National Research Labs, actually. and they gave him a bar of Inconel, and that's an alloy that's used in aerospace and the military because it's heat resistant and very strong. It was a long bar of Inconel, and they put sensors and gauges on it to measure different, parameters. And Geller stroked the bar, and the bar bent and cracked. And they did electron microscopy on the bar to determine that some of the molecular structure of that Inconel had simply disappeared. Okay, that's fact.
What?
They never figured out how, but listen how it ended up. About a decade or so later, there was a book written. I won't give the name because I don't want to help promote the author. And he tore apart Geller, and he claimed that Geller faked the whole Inconel thing by bringing his own bar of something, which was already bent and broken, and putting it in place of the bar they gave him. I go, where would he hide a 2.5 to 3 foot bar of Inconel?
Sometimes you have to wonder about the sanity of the debunkers.
Right. But then it gets stranger. Oh, or, wait for this, he had a high-energy laser hidden in one of his teeth that he aimed at the bar to weaken it, make it so he could bend it, making it malleable so he could bend it. I'm going like, huh? I'm going like, oh, okay.
These people should write for Disney. Holy wow.
Yeah, they'll...
Yeah, the arch villain with the laser in his tooth.
The sad part of that was that a lot of people who read this are not sufficiently educated to really evaluate what they were discussing. Inconel, what's Inconel? And maybe you could bring a 3 foot long bar and then break it yourself. It's ridiculous. When Geller came to our lab at UCLA way back when, there were some rumors that when he couldn't do things, he would fake it. When most successful mediums that made the rounds did such things. But I had a sealed acrylic jar, or I guess it was more rectangular, and in it were placed different strips of different metal. Titanium, aluminum, iron, silver, and some gold. And I just wanted him to stroke it. Now, this box is made of 2 pieces, this sheet item, and it was in a vacuum. So if he had opened that to gain access to the metal strips, that would have been a loud pop. And nor could he open it. It was nothing for him to grab onto. It was soft edges. And he stroked it with his hand, and the pieces bent accordingly. And of course, the debunker said, well, when we weren't looking, he switched boxes on us or opened it and then bent it. But there would have been a loud bang because of the vacuum in there. Oh, he muffled it. He just didn't know it. Oh, yeah. Okay. But see, it's that mindset that poses a problem because for people who don't believe, it's a great way to keep it going, or their skepticism to maintain its course, because they don't have to believe it because there's nothing there anyway. And the whole thing comes down to that the majority of Western culture, Western civilization, as we know it, the only time they take a really strong interest in this is when there's a big, successful film out dealing with it, a sci-fi or action-adventure film. Like when Spielberg was coming out with movies dealing with ufology or the paranormal, there was a lot of talk about it.
Well, there was, and people were very accepting of it, and to the point that there's still today a belief that he was fed the information to make Close Encounters.
Close Encounters. Right, yeah, that's a belief. I don't know if it's true or not, but what I'm getting at here is the bigger picture. The mindset of people doesn't really deal with such things as the paranormal ufology unless it starts affecting your life.
Mm-hmm. And then they're very quick to believe.
Exactly. So let's say, what's the human condition? We grow up, we go to school, we finish getting an education, we get a job, we get married, we have kids, we get older, we die. And in between all, we have rest and recreation. we have a hobby, we hang out with friends, or we race cars, or we're an athlete on the side, or play ball, or we go fishing, or we have a boat, or we go flying or something. And that's life. And that's the norm for Western civilization. When that is upset by things that we don't understand, that frighten us, we pay attention.
And on that note, we're going to have to take a little break.
Okay.
So, because I want to evolve this part of the conversation. I think this is absolutely factual, and I can't wait to cover it further. And we will be back in 3 minutes. Y'all come back with us.
You are listening to WBHM Digital Broadcasting. The best in paranormal talk radio.
Oh, come on. I'm Southern, but... Nope. That'll do. Hello. I am Kat Hobson, host of Paranormal Experience here on WBHM Digital Broadcasting out of Birmingham, Alabama. I enjoy having guests from all areas of the paranormal, from ghosts to ufology to cryptids and beyond. You'll find some of the best researchers in their fields bringing you some great information. Join me on Wednesday nights from 8 to 10 p. Eastern here on WBHM Digital Broadcasting.
Son of a...
Hey, son.
Mother...
Son? What are you doing?
Hey, Mom. I'm getting ready to listen to Periscope Uncensored.
By expanding your vocabulary.
Well, it is uncensored.
Son, the uncensored part of Periscope Uncensored is Jax and I getting down to brass tacks with all aspects of the paranormal. There's no fluff on our show.
So, no off-color commentary?
I didn't say that.
Awesome!
Son?
I just hit my head.
Oh boy. I'll go get you an ice pack. Catch Periscope Uncensored Thursday nights at 9 p.m. Eastern, only on WBHM Digital Broadcasting.
Since 1948, Fate magazine has brought you reports of the strange and unknown, all of them true. Fate Radio is carrying on that tradition, bringing you the unusual, macabre, strange, and bizarre. Join host Kat Hobson Sunday nights from 8 to 10 p.m. Eastern on WBHM Digital Broadcasting.
You are listening to WBHM Digital Broadcasting, Birmingham, Alabama.
Thank you for listening to WBHM Digital Broadcasting out of Birmingham, Alabama. The time is 23 minutes after the hour. Welcome back to Fate Mag Radio. I am Kat Hobson, your host, and I am joined tonight, I'm very happy about this, by Dr. Barry Taff. And we were having a really fun discussion about debunkers and the links that this guy was going to, this in particular individual. And, you know, I still think that it's a fear factor. And we were talking during the break about the puritanical background maybe having something to do with that in our society.
I think it's more than that. I think, to give you an example, when I worked with you, the lab was up and running. I met a lot of academicians around my parents' age way back when, and either MDs or PhDs or both. Some were men, some were women, and they were terrified of me. The reason I first was around the lab was because I was being tested as a psychic by Dr. Thelma Moss.
Right.
And we were a couple of years later said, okay. But the reason Thelma liked me and I worked with her was I was like her psychic pet, if you excuse the term, where I could turn the ability on in terms of the mental things, not physical phenomena. And apparently enough of that happened around these individuals, I won't use their names, where they began to be terrified to be near me because they didn't know what I might pick up. And one of the individuals, a man, I out of the blue talked about this relationship he had with a woman other than his wife, and he didn't. How could I know who she was and describe her? And then one other guy, he was a psychologist and a sociologist. He wrote 2 books that he put me in. Not good, not bad. It was whatever. And he said he thought I was an alien. And I go, "Did you ever meet an alien from another planet?" He goes, "No." Then how do you know what one is like? Well, I figured they're like you. I went, "Why? What are you talking about?" I mean, and
that's a realistic question. Did he have an answer?
I mean, yeah, no, they go dumb on you. Now, these are articulate, intelligent, highly educated individuals and very well respected in their fields of endeavor. Yet they were just as terrified by this stuff as someone who thinks it's all demonic. It's all the devil's work. And it was, I'm telling you, it was just really odd seeing these people react to me in a way like, what? When I was a kid in high school, I got in a little trouble, not for doing anything illegal with the law, but I borrowed a large bottle of potassium chlorate to make my rocket fuel, because I used to build rockets, but the fuel they had wasn't adequate. And what's ironic is the chemistry teacher who almost got me thrown out of school for wanting to borrow potassium chlorate, he ended up becoming a good friend of mine. And 10 years later, I get a call from Dr. Moss in her office. We were up in the lab, and she said, "Oh, there's someone down here who wants to meet you. Come on down." I said, "Okay, sure." So I come down, and there's the man who was my chemistry teacher in high school. And we became a good friend. He wrote an article on the entity case before it was the entity for the book that he had written, and he published the photos in with Popular Photography magazine. He looked at our negatives, and he said, "I can't begin to even guess what made these images." And, of course, nor could we. And we ended up becoming good friends. So when I first knew him back in high school, I didn't talk about anything strange, because back in those days, they would have probably thrown you out of school, sending you to a psychiatrist. They would have thought that you were mad. But he ended up becoming a good friend. And the last time I was on with Art Bell, I think it was like the fall of 2015. And so it was really nice. I hadn't been on with him in a while. And who calls in? This teacher of mine. And I heard his voice. "Where are you?" So, yeah. "Oh, how you doing?" Blah, blah. He said, he's like in his 90s, and he's written some books. He's mentioned to me. But if people who are academicians, who are teachers, professors, they're research scientists in normal fields of work, and they start espousing upon their interest and beliefs in such matters, they will lose their job. They will not be hired. No one will hire them because people think you're crazy. It's
we
a
have
hostile
had
work
that
environment.
discussion. Yes.
Yeah. And if I had $1 for every person who thought I was crazy, I could retire. The joke is I've never been married. I've never been close to being married. And people ask, why is that? I said, well, I've met beautiful women throughout my life. I've had girlfriends. None have lasted very long. Either the women think I'm nuts after a while, or they make me look normal.
Oh.
And if the latter
I understand
part
that.
is true, it can pose a big, big problem. This girl, we were living together, this was 34 years ago, in Brentwood. And so everything was fine. And then, I had a dream one night. I jumped up. The place is on fire. The whole place on fire. Of course, there was no fire, but I saw it and smelled it. I came out of it going, "Oh, it hasn't happened yet." She goes, "What?" Okay. And so weeks later, she gave me a surprise party for my birthday, which was really nice. And someone had gone in the bathroom and flipped the wrong switch. It caught a bassinet, a laundry thing on fire. And there was the fire. That kind of unnerved her. But it was just a little thing. And then one time we're together, we're talking, and I said, her name was Linda. I said, Linda, look, I got to ask you this. Are you seeing someone else? I just said, guy, his name is Steve. He's like 6'1", salt and pepper hair. He drives this kind of car. He's divorced. He's got 2 children. Are you following me? I said, no. And how do you know? I said, I know. No, it's. I said, be careful.
She didn't know that you would know that.
Well, she was scared because how can you know it? Well, I'm here, you're here, you know it, so now I know it. I said, look, I'm disappointed that we didn't work out, but be careful, this man's going to beat you up and put you in the hospital. Oh, no, he will. You're just jealous. I said, look, I'm upset by your decision that we don't work, but I can't tell you what to do with your life. It's your life. So we broke up, and then months went by. She called me. He beat her up and put her in the hospital.
Good heavens.
And then I would occasionally give her readings on new boyfriends. He'd hold a business card of theirs or look at a picture of them. And I found that all I was doing was enabling her to meet more disturbed men. And I said, it's your life. If you're unable to see the insanity in some of these people upon meeting them, getting to know them, don't pull me into the problem because I'm making it worse for you. I told her, if you walked into a room of 1,000 men all wearing a similar disguise, they all look identical, you'd find Adolf Hitler and want to date him.
Well, so I have had friends like that. It's like they are automatically drawn to the negative.
Mm-hmm.
And I think everybody sometimes has done that.
Yeah, I mean, it's part of life. But what I'm getting at here is because of my beliefs, my orientations, my aspirations, my motivations for life, it's very different than most other people. When a big part of your life is totally different than everyone else you know, almost everyone, like, okay, you're the odd man out. It's, the couples that get married, they go hang out with other couples. They don't want the strange man around. I was set up on a blind date in 1984 by my friend. He was a casting director. And I don't know if you remember who Jose Escamilla was.
I do.
Yeah, he's a great guy. I met him in the 80s, and he hired me to work on some shows. They had me in my car doing donuts in the street and everything. So he set me up with this beautiful girl. I didn't know, I saw her picture, but I didn't know anything about her. So we met for dinner, and this is in 1984. It was in Ventura Boulevard in Encino. And I didn't know anything about her other than what she looked like. And so her name was Jody. And she said, oh, yeah, Jose said you can to diagnose people. I said, yeah. She goes, okay, what's wrong with me? I said, well, you have a follicular cyst in your left ovary and you have endometriosis. She went, well, what? What was that? Endofollicular what? 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 How do you know that? I said, well, you're next to me. That's what I sense.
There you go.
And she went to her OBGYN. It was proved. She ran some tests. I was right. Then he called me. How do you know this? I said, I can't explain it. I just do it. And our relationship was very problematic because it was like, well, what else do you know? I go, what difference does it make? And then back 1973, this all goes to where we're heading with some of this. In 1973, I went out and I was dating this girl named Carol. Met her in the lab at UCLA. Anyway, long story short, so came over once, and we were talking, and we were sitting on the couch, and I looked at her. I said, wow, you've got a tumor here. And I pointed around her left breast. She went, what? It's a tumor. It's benign. She said, how do you know? I said, I see no calcium around it. She said, what are you talking? How can you see that? I said, look, you better have a checkup. You have some mammograms done, blah, blah, blah. And,
I'm sorry, that would have freaked me out too.
But she was young. We were both 25, and at the time, and I said to her, well, she didn't want to deal with it. Okay. So she gets her job. She finished her degree at UCLA, gets her job. They had to give her an insurance physical. They gave her one. They found the lump right where I said it was. They did a biopsy. It was benign, but they removed it anyway, which is good. And she goes, I can't be around you anymore. Well, she goes, I feel like a piece of glass, and I feel this makes me feel very awkward. I never know what little tidbit of knowledge you're going to give to me whenever we're together. So we try to make it work, and the last thing we did together shows the insanity of this all. I took her to see The Exorcist on opening day. Westwood, October 1973 at the National Theater. And we're in there. And I already, I read the book. I knew I'd met Blatty and Friedkin. And part of that story's in my book. And
yes.
But the whole, and so the movie's the first act, and you see Linda Blair being bounced around the bed before anything really intense breaks out. And the scene played out, and I turned to Carol, and I got a projective voice, and I said, I've seen a bed do that in a house in Hollywood. From the front of the theater, a voice yells out, hey, Barry, is that you? I mean, it was funny, but she goes, I can't take this. I can't. Your whole life is weird. I can't deal with this stuff. This is your existence. I go, I know. And so it's made life difficult when people who never think about it, who don't care about it, are thrust in the middle of it because of me. It can be very unnerving.
Well, I could see that. I was aware of your physical diagnostics ability, and I think that would be odd. The young woman who did have malignancies was very fortunate to have come across you, however. So,
well, luckily it wasn't malignant; it was benign. So, thankfully, that.
I meant the woman that had to have the double mastectomy.
Oh, yeah. She had a follicular sister left ovary and diverticulosis.
Okay.
She had a full hysterectomy. So.
I thought there was another woman who had the melanoma.
Yes, that was 1990. Yes, this 90 or 90, I don't know. Yeah. Just got this. Yeah, it was after I got this car. So this girl came over. I hadn't seen her in a long time. She looked great, and we're talking. So we're outside. It was really warm, and she's wearing a halter top. And another girl named Linda, and she's looking at me and talking. I said, Linda, listen, what's all over your chest? She goes, what? I go, it looks like a jellyfish. And whoa. And I got closer to her. I said, oh, it's inside you. You better go see an oncologist. Your breasts are riddled with tumors. She goes, what? Look, just so some time later, she called back. Yep, had to have radical mastectomies, and I said, "But you knew I could do this." She said, "But you've never done it to me." I said, "Well, when I was around you, these things weren't relevant. They weren't happening to you, meaning." So, but she ended up becoming rather strange. Where when I was around her back in the 70s. She didn't appear that bizarre, in fact, anything very normal. And now she was thought that aliens were conspiring with the CIA and the FBI to destroy the planet, and she wanted me to help her and Jesus Christ fight them. I'm going like, I've got to go, Linda. I've got to go back to the earth. Excuse me. That was last time I talked to her. But see, a lot of times the diagnostic stuff happens when let's see, the first Batman movie came out, the one Batman Begins. Mm-hmm. So, no, it was the Dark Knight.
Oh,
I went to see it at a screening at the Directors Guild, and this friend of mine were going to meet there. This is a girl who I met in the lab through my old colleague, and we show up separately. We sit down, and the movie just starts. Suddenly, my bladder felt like it was going to explode, burning and cramping. I'm going like, whoa, what's going on? She got a call. She had to leave. Her daughter needed some help, so nothing I could help her with. So I stayed. She left, and I found out the next day she had a bad bladder infection when she was there. And so next time you tell me, I sit 5 seats away from you.
Do not share this pain. Yes.
Well, yeah, I mean, literally. So the whole point of it is I'm a walking 3D color X-ray machine, but who can also feel it. And it's fun. It's
well, that wasn't. I mean, there are repercussions to everything.
2013, my colleague from UCLA, he's now a medical doctor, came by with his new girlfriend. I didn't know her, didn't know her kids, nothing. So they show up. It was nice meeting them. And so she wanted me to diagnose her kids and her. And I didn't even know her name at the time. Very attractive. She looked like Katie Holmes. Very similar look. So she sits down and looked at her kid first, her son. And I said, whoa. My colleague, Ken, his name was Ken, Dr. Ken Stoller. He said, well, I said, wow, this is weird. I was rubbing my eyes. I go, his frontal lobes are missing. She goes, what? His frontal lobes of his brain are missing. There's just empty, vacuous space in there. It turned out he has cortical encephalopathy, encephalitis.
Right.
And it was correct. Okay. Then I looked at her, and I said, well, you're okay, but your lungs are really dark brown and have dark black spots on them. You used to smoke a lot. Yeah, you have COPD. She goes, yeah. I said, don't smoke anymore. And with that, she just got up, grabbed her kids, and left rather quickly.
Well, I can see that.
And then she told my colleague, Ken, she said, you told him about me. You told him about me and my son. No, I didn't even know their names, let alone anything about them. But it got to the point where she really didn't want him talking to me, even though he lived up north in California. I live in L.A. I don't like this. I thought it was a big joke, and it's not. That's the problem.
Right.
It is a joke. Like, oh, isn't that fun? No, it's not. It's just the life I've chosen, the life that was carved out for me. If the lab hadn't existed, if Dr. Moss hadn't had the lab at UCLA, I don't know what I would have done, because life would have been more difficult, because I'd never been able to discuss this publicly or go anywhere with it or do anything. And yet, it's odd, because we believe that certain phenomena around people tend to occur at certain ages, when you're younger, especially the physical phenomena. Well, guess what? They're wrong. We were wrong. In the last 9 years, there have been so many incidents of poltergeist activity around the RSPK. It's a joke at this point. I had witnesses to some of it, fortunately. Things appearing out of nowhere, things moving around out of nowhere. I lost a suit from it. A pair of shoes disappeared from nowhere. Medication disappeared in big vials in a padded mailing envelope disappeared. My cell phone disappeared. Never found it when it fell right in front of me, almost hit me. The seatbelt in my car had wrapped itself in a knot, but it was still connected to its locations on the seat and on the sidewall of the car. But how has it been wrapped in a knot? I don't know. And
that's an odd thing to find. But
yeah, they think you have to.
There's so much oddity in the science, but we are up on a 2-minute break, and I want to hear more about this. So y'all come back. I know y'all want to hear it too. Be back in 2.
You're listening to WBHM Digital Broadcasting, the best in paranormal talk, only on Paranormal Experience Radio. Broadcasting live out of Birmingham, Alabama.
Thank you for listening to WBHM Digital Broadcasting out of Birmingham, Alabama. The time is 45 minutes after the hour. Thank you for joining us. You are listening to Fate Mag Radio, and I am speaking with Dr. Barry Taff. And Dr. Taff, we were talking about all kinds of interesting things, but I think that one of the things I find a bit, I don't know what the right word is, disconcerting perhaps, about your gift, and it's from your side of the viewing, is if it were someone you truly cared about and it were something terminal that you were seeing. I don't know how I personally would find a way to cope with that, and that would always be a possibility.
Yeah. When I was young, this is back in the 70s and my 20s, so my parents really didn't believe in who and what I am. They kind of tolerated it to a point, but they didn't want to deal with it because it was just unnerving to them, and who cares? So my mom comes to me, she says, "Oh, Barry, look, there's something wrong with Dad," my father, her husband. "Can you tell me what's wrong?" I said, "Is it visibly discernible?" She goes, "No." So I sit down on the couch next to him. I did my thing. I said, "Well, you have what? You have a hiatal hernia." I said, "What?" And my mom's, because I was right. And she goes, "You guessed." I only said one thing. I didn't say 10, 20, 30. I said one thing, and I was right.
Right.
When my prior general practitioner, the doctor used to go to, checkups in L.A., the last time I saw him, for good reason, they come in and get blood pressure, they listen to your heart, whatever, and with a stethoscope. And he approaches me. I said, "Oh, you drive a black Lexus, the SC430. He went, "What?" "Yeah, black on black." "How'd you know that?" I said, "Well, you walked too close to me, and that's what I felt." I said, "Oh, you have some lumbar problems, really, and some upper respiratory distress." "Huh? How could you know that?" I said, "Oh, you're planning on retiring soon, right?" And he ran out of the office like I shot him in the ass with a BB gun.
Oh, that
And he
is
said,
too
"I never
funny.
want to see him again." It's like, I've learned there are some people you can talk to these people about stuff about. There are others you cannot. Now, the reason I did not go to medical school was I'm very...
Because you'd have been cheating.
Well, no, that would have been helpful. But in terms of, I'm very sensitive to people's pain and illness,
Yes.
and being around people sick all the time. I would feel sick.
Yes.
And so it wouldn't have been good, or, the phenomena around me that's go stronger. I remember one time, this is like 6 years ago or 8 years ago. Yeah, my friends over were watching TV. We heard a big clang, heavy metal clang, and I jump up with, "What's wrong?" So we go to the kitchen, open up some cupboards, and "What's this?" There's a strange object in there. It's a metal ring with a tripod legs. The metal ring has a hole in the middle, and it's something you use to go cooking if you're out camping. I've never owned that because I hate camping. And my friend said,
too.
"Is it yours?" I go, "No." "You ever own it?" "No." "What's it doing?" I said, "I don't know. I look in the cabinet, there's stuff in there I need, but that's never been in there." Okay. Now, here's where it gets really, really strange. So I almost died in 2015. Long, boring medical story. Not about what I did or didn't know about it. I was too sick. I just collapsed. Anyway, so I was staying with a friend, recuperating, which I'm still doing to a point, and or in part. And I'm sitting on the couch watching TV. He's gone. He's away from the house, maybe miles away. And I'm sitting there, the lights are on, watching a big television. And all of a sudden I hear a woman yell my name, "Barry," and I go, boom! I jump up on the couch. There's no one there but me. Okay. Months later, I'm laying down one night alone, and in my own bedroom, alone, and I feel warm breath against my left cheek and my left ear. What the? And then I hear a voice going, "Barry, you remember me, don't you?" "Huh?" Jump up, there's nothing there, but I see red and green lights swimming around the room.
The same green lights from your previous experience?
Different, same color, but different shape. They looked like anti-collision lights on aircraft. And I zipped around the room.
Because that would have been weird. I mean, this is unusual too, but that would have been very unusual.
Yeah. And then, a couple of weeks ago, laying down, asleep, and sound asleep. Suddenly, I wake up, and it's like, I don't know, 6 in the morning, and I'm sleeping on my right side, which is not that uncommon, but instead of my face on a pillow, my face is on something softer producing heat. And I open my eyes, there's someone in bed with me. It's a female. My right cheek is on her left breast. She has more melanin in her skin than I do. Long dark hair, high brow ridge, can't see the eye color, high cheekbones. And what the hell? What? And I hear breathing, and I smell a body odor. Not bad, just not my own. And I get up to turn the light on, which is like they stand next to the bed at the nightstand, and I hear a female voice go, "No, don't put the light on. Don't put the light on." I go, "What?" And I get up, kind of reached around and over, turned the light on. There was no one there, but the bed was warm, and it was still depressed from where she was. So what was that? Now
there's several things that could be, but
but what's the source? Why? I mean, I'm living out of LA now. I live way out of LA, and I live in an area that's on the very low edge of the San Andreas Fault, which is constantly active. Not big, but just enough to notice it. Okay, but why are now my friend is staying in the house, and these things aren't happening to him; they're happening to me.
Maybe he didn't have that need to manifest something of that nature.
Yeah, but then let's get back to 2014? Yeah, I'm in LA. I was still in LA. And so it's Thursday. It's a fall morning. And my cleaning lady came over to clean my home. So, okay, let her in. I go in the shower. And now when she first came in, I was on a computer working. And she knew I was in that room using the computer. And I went in the bathroom, turned the shower, and taking a shower. And suddenly I heard banging noises on the door. Barry, I can put my robe on, jump up. What's the matter? I saw you at the computer. She said, yeah, I was on it. No, I saw you now. I go, what's now? She goes, right now. Huh? I went into that room, and I saw you at the computer. Yes, no, when you're in the shower. I go, what? I don't know. And she got so freaked out, she wouldn't come back for months.
Wow.
And then I had to go out of town to do some work on a movie, and I had some friends staying at my place because there was a really valuable item they didn't want they left alone. And I come back home, and my friend was over, invited a friend of his over. So the girl takes off these earbuds. She was listening to music for her phone, puts them down, and they're gone. Poof. She put her phone down, it's gone. Poof. Several weeks later, I backed the book. It was only gone about 4 or 5 days. Come back home, and I'm walking out of the bedroom, and earbuds fly and hit me in the back of the head, in my upper shoulder area. They're hers. The question is, why now? Why me? If I was younger, why now? Maybe because I've been having medical problems. This is my body trying to heal itself, putting out more power.
That would be a logical thing. Although I don't know, I find that when I'm healing, I'm not really putting power out. I'm almost absorbing it, like I'm drawing. So, but that's me. Everybody is different.
Yeah, exactly. No two people are the same. And remember, back in LA, I didn't even know I was about to almost die.
Right.
I mean, if I had been with my friend, I would have been dead for sure. So, who knows? I mean, your body's trying to heal itself, and successfully way back when, into the late 2014, And then here I am in the middle of nowhere with all these things transpiring around me. And yet, I mean, I'm just sitting in the bedroom on the computer, and I hear someone banging on the wall thinking it's my friend in his bathroom, which is down the hall around the corner. And he wasn't even home. Banging. Then a couple of days ago, I hear a child voice going, no. Like, no. But there are no children here. There never been any children. I don't know. The thing is, there have been so many of these instances around me. If I had someone said, give us an explanation. It's my... But how do you explain it, why these things are happening to you at your age?
Right.
My body's been trying to heal itself and putting out more power. There is nothing else is going on. It's nothing. Yeah, so it's, I don't know. But the whole life has been...
Not boring.
I said it's different. It's a different person's life. When we had the lab at UCLA, there were so many people that came through that we've met over the years, and I continue to know some of them and evolve beyond that point. And when I've seen professional people crumble, we got so used to the ESP thing, the making it work when we wanted it to in these controlled conditions. We wanted to do something different. This is in my book, and it's on my website. And this is in 1977, or maybe early 78. The latter, right before the lab was closed. So rather than bore everybody with the specific nuances of that event itself, our job was to look ahead 1 week and to describe the person that would be randomly chosen to be the target of the remote viewing episode. Okay? We don't even know who would be there, let alone who would be randomly chosen. So we described a tall, blue-eyed blonde woman, very striking, beautiful face and figure, described her clothing in great detail, and we described a 3-story home in the Hollywood Hills, baby grand piano. And then we got a little weird. We started describing a tall man dressed in black pants, black boots, black gloves, black shirt, black hat, black mask, black cape, and an imposing sword. And what does this mean?
An imposing sword.
An amazing sword, imposing sword, I should say. And what did it mean? Nothing. So the next week, new people come in, they've never been there before, brought to third parties who were not in our group the prior week. And every person got a sealed envelope with a piece of paper and a number on it from 1 to 12. And we sit them down, come into the room we use, sit them down, open your packets. What we do is we roll the dice. Okay, a number comes up. Okay, open your packets. When you see if your number corresponds to the number on the dice, let us know. And this woman goes, that's my number. We didn't remember what we said a week earlier. Who would? So she's going through the recording tape, what we're saying, describing her. It's perfectly accurate. That could have been coincidence. We describe what she's wearing. Could have been coincidence. She was a model. Who knows? Describe the house, the Hollywood Hills. Yep, that's where she grew up. But then we describe a tall man dressed in black, the cape and the amazing sword and the mask. Her father, she said to me, how do you know who I am? She goes, that's my father. We go, what? She goes, how do you know who I am? And we went, what are you talking about? How do you know who I am? My father was Guy Williams. What? Mm-hmm. The man who played Zorro for Disney. And we went, she goes, wait, when did you make this tape? We go, a week ago. I didn't know I was coming here until a few hours ago, and I was randomly, wait a minute, that's impossible. Yep, exactly.
It is. You know what? We have to take our top of the hour news break.
Okay.
This is so fascinating. And when we come back, we're going to continue our discussion with Dr. Barry. Like I have a mouse in my pocket. I'm going to continue my discussion with Dr. Barry Taff. And, if you have questions, get them in chat, www.wbhm-.com or www.fatemag.com. We will see you on the flip side.
Support for this podcast and the following message come from Cayman Jack, who offers pre-mixed margaritas and mojitos so you can uncap and unwind. Find them at caymanjack.com. Please drink responsibly. Premium malt beverage. American Vintage Beverage Co., Chicago, Illinois.
Live from NPR News in Washington, I'm Janine Herbst. An overnight curfew is in place in Sri Lanka, and major social media networks are blocked after a series of bombs exploded at churches packed for Easter services and at luxury hotels. At least 207 people were killed, including several Americans, and hundreds were injured. NPR's Sasha Ingber has more.
Secretary of State Mike Pompeo says the U.S. has offered its assistance to help bring the perpetrators to justice, echoing President Trump, who tweeted that the U.S. stands ready to help. The U.S. Embassy in Colombo will close to the public on Monday, but says it will continue to provide emergency services to Americans. Sri Lanka's president says he's ordered the police and military to start an investigation into who is responsible and what was driving them. Police say 13 suspects linked to the explosions have been arrested. Sasha Ingber, NPR News, Washington.
The Easter Mass that would have been celebrated in Notre Dame Cathedral today was held in another Paris church. NPR's Eleanor Beardsley reports some 2,000 people attended, including many of the firefighters who helped put out Monday's blaze.
Archbishop of Paris Michel Aupetit celebrated Easter Mass in 16th century Saint-Eustache, where Louis XIV took his first communion. Last night, a national concert with various singers and celebrities helped raise more funds for Notre Dame. During the concert, French Culture Minister Franck Riester announced the cathedral was now stabilized.
Bonsoir à toutes et à tous. Notre-Dame aujourd'hui est...
All the sensitive points like the pinions and the South Bell Tower have been secured, said Riester. The only thing left is to reinforce the vault, put a top over her roof, and we can begin restoring Notre Dame. Eleanor Beardsley, NPR News, Paris.
It's not official yet, but exit polls show Ukrainians appear to have elected a new president, a TV comedian with no political experience, and the incumbent is accepting defeat. NPR's Lucian Kim has more.
Less than an hour after the polls closed, Ukrainian President Petro Poroshenko has conceded defeat. Exit polls show his challenger, Volodymyr Zelensky, winning a landslide with more than 70% of the vote. Zelensky is a comedian with no previous political experience, unless you count his hit TV show in which he plays a high school teacher who, by a twist of fate, became Ukraine's president. Zelensky has won because of frustration among Ukrainians with the status quo. Zelensky's most pressing tasks will be trying to end a 5-year conflict with Russia in eastern Ukraine, as well as rebooting a reform program, including the fight against corruption and raising living standards.
NPR's Lucian Kim reporting. This is NPR. A bipartisan group of senators is in Vietnam this weekend. NPR's Amy Held reports they broke ground on a remediation project to clean up the largest remaining hotspot of Agent Orange contamination from the Vietnam War.
USAID has committed to spending $180 million over a period of 5 years to treat the ground at the Bien Hoa Air Base outside Ho Chi Minh City. During the war, the U.S. military sprayed millions of gallons of herbicide to strip the dense tropical foliage providing cover to enemy troops. Much of it was Agent Orange, containing the highly toxic chemical dioxin, now known to be linked to a range of problems, including cancers and birth defects. It's lingered for decades in Vietnamese soil. Last year, alongside the Vietnamese government, USAID completed cleanup at another airport where dioxin had been stockpiled. The goal, it says, is to launch a new era of cooperation between the nations. Amy Held, NPR News.
Queen Elizabeth is 93 years old. She marked the day, which is also Easter, by attending services with other royals at St. George's Chapel on the grounds of Windsor Castle. Today is the first of 2 birthday celebrations for the Queen. Now, today is the actual anniversary of her birth, but the day is officially celebrated in June with the Trooping of the Color Parade. A king or queen celebrating 2 birthdays is a tradition going back some 250 years when it was instituted by King George II. Elizabeth is the longest reigning monarch in British history. I'm Janine Herbst, and you're listening to NPR News from Washington.
Welcome back to WBHM Digital Broadcasting out of Birmingham, Alabama. The time is 5 minutes after the hour. Welcome back. You are listening to WBHM Digital Broadcasting out of Birmingham, Alabama, and I am Kat Hobson, your host here on Fate Mag Radio. I am so enjoying this conversation. I hope y'all are too. This is Dr. Barry Taff, who is a paranormal researcher and investigator. He is a parapsychologist, probably one of the pioneers in this field. He is psychic in all kinds of interesting ways, and he knows an awful lot about a subject that I find fascinating, which is the PK agents. The RPK agents. And Dr. Taff, thank you again for being here with me. I am having so much fun talking with you.
Okay, I appreciate it.
Well,
it's important for people to understand what's really going on out there.
Well, it is. And, you know, I am just really fascinated because when you talk about I'm twisted here. When you talk about the poltergeistic activity being relevant to human behaviors and situations, and you brought that straight to people who have seizure disorders or epileptics as a primary. And I had always thought that it was simply from hormonal adolescents who were just, had things running rampant through their body. And that's not really the case, is it?
Well, it's very complicated. It's the evidence suggests that these occurrences are due to a confluence of events, not for one thing, but for multiple things. Okay, now, this is a good analogy. You've got a DVD you're holding in your hand. In order to watch it, what do you need? Well, 1, you need a DVD player. 2, you got to have a television. 3, they both have to be plugged into the wall, and you have to have a remote to operate the DVD player. If any part of that ensemble is missing or does not work, you get no image on the screen. In terms of the poltergeist activity, the evidence suggests that, 1, you need a unique environment. Unique geomagnetically or electromagnetically. And these environments, you need individuals who are hypersensitive to electromagnetic fields, have poor coping mechanisms for dealing with stress, and very often have temporal lobe epilepsy or focal seizures, in the sense that their body has the problems in mediating its own neurological activity. And if all these work in concert, you get a result. So you get the right people in the right place at the right time. Their body, it's sort of it's like inductive resonance coupling, that there's a geomagnetic field in which there's information thereon. You go into it, the right person, you couple with that, and then the two of you play it out. The environment being the television. The plug for the wall is the person. We're animating it. The information's there. And the mediator of it is how it affects the individual. So it's very complicated, but we keep seeing the same things over and over. The faces may change, the places may change, but the phenomenon is not. So you get objects appearing and disappearing, you get banging on the walls, machines turning on and off, objects, blatant movement of objects, people being kicked and scratched and cut. And, it's sort of like when I go out and do investigations, we take rather sophisticated instruments with us. And I did that Demon House show with Zach in early 2015. It came out a couple years later. And because I couldn't get my equipment insured to take there, some of the high-end stuff I couldn't bring it with, and Zach couldn't get the low-frequency spectrum analyzer or the geomagnetometer, which is what I really wanted. And so we did get some instruments to show oddities in the background energy. And then the skeptics were saying, well, of course it is, because you're near power supplies. I said, yeah, but if that energy is bleeding off and the person in the environment is hypersensitive to those 60 hertz, that could trigger it. And they went like, what? Huh? It's the same thing over and over again. The case I worked on, the Doris Byther case, there were no portable instrumentations back when the entity case was happening, which began on August 22nd, 1974, and ran through November, actually. No, a couple of years later, rather. When Carrie Gaynor and I went out and met Doris Byther on August 22nd, it was really hot and really humid. And one of the first things she told us was she'd been repeatedly raped by a ghost. And we looked at each other, we rolled our eyes back, and went, oh my God, woman needs psychiatric intervention, medication, she's sick. So we listened to her and we thanked her for her time. We were there for like an hour and left. She calls back days later, she said her neighbors had witnessed something. Okay, so we come back, it was still hot and humid. The house had a really bad odor. It smelled like decomposing organic matter or urine that hadn't been flushed down the toilet. Terrible odor. And when we're talking with her in the kitchen, a lower cupboard door flies open, and an iron skillet comes out and flies across the kitchen. No strings, no wires, no springs, no animals, no children in there. Now, she had 4 children, 3 boys and a girl. We never met the youngest girl. Good, that was a good idea. But the 3 boys were adolescents. And it was a pretty rambunctious environment. And they thought the mother was nuts. And they're playing their loud rock music, driving her crazy. And
what age range of adolescent were they?
The oldest was, I think, 16 or 17. I'd have to pull the file out and look. But they were all in their teens, if I remember correctly. And they didn't get along, and each was from a different man. Each boy was not all from the same man. And she led a very tumultuous life, emotionally and physically. Her parents disowned her a long time ago, but she was so concerned about being labeled a crazy person that she wouldn't even give us her age. And nowadays, if people refuse to give us their age, we just leave, because if they're not giving us some real basic information, then why should we bother to? No.
I understand that. I feel that way with my investigations.
And there were no instruments to take out to measure the local environment. But we began seeing these strange lights, corpuscular masses of light zipping around the apartment. And at one point, we sealed off. It was mostly in the bedroom. The bedroom was always ice cold, but there was no air conditioning or refrigeration present. So why was the bedroom ice cold? And we got a picture of one of the lights zipping around, but we had no reference. We didn't know from where it was coming or where it was going, the speed at which it was traveling, nothing. So we covered her walls and ceiling with black poster board, making a grid with duct tape. And each panel had a number and a magnetic orientation. So if we got a picture in the dark, we'd be able to tell where we're shooting and may be able to make a determination of how fast the lights were moving. And we're in the bedroom, and at one point, one of the nights we were there, the lights were zipping around, and they coalesced in the corner of the bedroom where Doris's bed was, and it was a large male apparition, well over 6 feet. You could see the head, the upper torso, the brow ridge, the jaw, the pectorals, the shoulders, and then it seemed to fade away and it was a dynamic image. It wasn't static. And then looking, and then poof, like a light going off. So a lot of pictures were taken. We had a number of professional photographers with us, and not one of them showed anything of relevance, anything at all, nothing. Pitch black room. But we did get other pictures, and one was when Doris was, this is earlier that evening, we saw lights flying around Doris. She's this lime green light. Took a picture, the one that gotten all the notification over the year, is an arc of light over Doris Beither's head. And not only is it remarkable because, one, we never saw this. Two, the walls behind the arc meet at a 90-degree angle. So if that light was projected onto the wall, it would be bent in accordance with the wall. There was not.
No refraction.
Right. The light was totally in space. Another one, you see two arcs going top to top, one from starts at the top, goes back to the top, then starts at the bottom, inverted arcs. And these are the pictures that my old teacher from, the chemistry teacher, Adrian Vance, he analyzed, and he said, I can't understand what these are. I don't know what they are. This is well before digital photography. This is in the mid-'70s. So there was no digital photography yet.
I saw that picture. I used it in the video, and I had seen it prior to our discussion, obviously. And I don't see anything that would lead me to believe. It would be very hard to fake that, especially in the age before CGI and such, with everything else being just perfect in that picture. And I was taken aback by how strong that the light of that arc was.
Yeah, it was very pronounced.
And I know that you have reiterated this story over and over, and I apologize if it feels like you're having to just do something by rote. I know how fascinating you are and all the work that you're doing, but I just found that interesting because you're not the only person I know who has brought a situation of a ghost assaulting a poltergeist. In the second instance, they called it a ghost for the purpose of their book. Sexually assaulting a human, a living human. Did you ever come to... I just find it fascinating. Did you ever come to a conclusion relevant to, was she causing this herself, or was it possibly PK manifestation from someone else?
Okay, now here's the thing that sort of was the tipping point where it became obvious. Doris claimed from the very beginning there were three male entities. The two smaller ones would hold her down, and the bigger one would, rape her. Now, it's no small coincidence that Doris had three male children, two younger, smaller ones, and one taller, more athletic, or a larger, older teenager. It was like,
that's what caught my eye.
Right, and it was hello. And it was, like I said, you don't need to be do formal analysis on people to think that, she led a very sexually oriented life. It was probably one of the biggest parts of her existence. And this could be an externalization of her own psyche, that in her mind she was manifesting this because she wanted more sex. And, I don't know. I don't think she had them with her children. Now, it was interesting. Years later, what was his name? Javier Ortega, GhostTheory.com. He interviewed one of Doris Beither's sons, and I wrote. I have a copy of it, and I noticed that he contradicted himself every other time he opened his mouth. He contradicted himself. He'd say one thing, then he would say something else. say one thing, then needs to contradict that. So the question is, how much is real? How much is fabricated, in his own mind, or refabrication? I don't know. We kind of stayed away from the kids because they wanted us gone. They wanted to keep playing their music and watching television or whatever. But it seemed, for what we saw, all the conclusions we could reach based on limited input we had and the images we captured and what we visually observed is that, yeah, there was paranormal phenomena there. But in my book, I'd be willing to bet this is all an extension, a subliminal extension of Doris's, subconscious or unconscious mind. And obviously, so we're not explaining one phenomenon with another. It was, it was the ultimate Oedipal relationship.
Yes.
That she was probably very attracted to her eldest son, and this is a way of making something happen that wasn't actually occurring. Now, as the movie pointed out, she claimed there were bruises or whatever. Now, we couldn't prove when the bruises occurred or what caused them. We know what she told us. However, by the things we were experiencing in the house, that it was more than an interest in the fact that this was real. And she finally moved from Culver City to Carson. We found her there thanks to Frank D. Felitta, the man who wrote the novel and who wrote the screenplay. And things were going on, similar, not identical. And she, we were sitting around talking once. We were sitting in a circle trying to make something happen. Wasn't really that dark. And suddenly a vase filled with water and some, flowers flew across the room and slammed into the floor right in between us all.
Well, you know what? We have to take a break. I'm so sorry.
Okay.
We're actually late getting to it because I didn't want to interrupt you.
Oh, it's okay.
And then I interrupted you. So we will be back in 3 minutes, guys. Thanks for your patience.
You are listening to WBHM Digital Broadcasting. The best in paranormal talk radio.
Oh, come on. I'm Southern, but... Nope. That'll do. Hello. I am Kat Hobson, host of Paranormal Experience here on WBHM Digital Broadcasting out of Birmingham, Alabama. I enjoy having guests from all areas of the paranormal, from ghosts to ufology to cryptids and beyond. You'll find some of the best researchers in their fields bringing you some great information. Join me on Wednesday nights from 8 to 10 p. Eastern here on WBHM Digital Broadcasting.
Son of a...
Hey, son.
Mother...
Son? What are you doing?
Hey, Mom. I'm getting ready to listen to Periscope Uncensored.
By expanding your vocabulary.
Well, it is uncensored.
Son, the uncensored part of Periscope Uncensored is Jax and I getting down to brass tacks with all aspects of the paranormal. There's no fluff on our show.
So, no off-color commentary?
I didn't say that.
Awesome! What?
Son?
I just hit my head.
Oh boy. I'll go get you an ice pack. Catch Periscope Uncensored Thursday nights at 9 p.m. Eastern, only on WBHM Digital Broadcasting.
Since 1948, Fate magazine has brought you reports of the strange and unknown, all of them true. Fate Radio is carrying on that tradition, bringing you the unusual, macabre, strange, and bizarre. Join host Kat Hobson Sunday nights from 8 to 10 p.m. Eastern on WBHM Digital Broadcasting.
You are listening to WBHM Digital Broadcasting, Birmingham, Alabama.
Thank you for listening to WBHM Digital Broadcasting out of Birmingham, Alabama. The time is 23 minutes after the hour. And just like that, we're back. I am speaking with Dr. Barry Taff. And Dr. Taff, we have a comment in the chat room that I wanted to share with you about one of our listeners says that her daughter does not make things move, and she's had epilepsy since she was 2 and fell 8 feet straight down. And I knew that you had information on that, so I wanted to share that with you and get your take on that.
However, the majority of people who are poltergeist agents tend to suffer from some kind of, they're seizure prone or they're epileptic, temporal lobe epilepsy. So it's not they work in both directions. It's that simply. It's unidirectional, not bidirectional. Why is it that most people who are epileptic don't have phenomena? We don't know. I mean, and there's studies that could be done to get to the bottom of this, except they would cost a lot of money, and no medical doctors would risk ruining their careers and lives to discover this. So I'm glad she asked that question because I did bring it up. So it's important.
You said twice that temporal lobe epilepsy is involved here. And is that the only type of epilepsy? Is that the only lobe that's affected?
No, it can be focal seizures. I mean, in a couple of cases over the years, a woman said, well, I don't have epilepsy, but I have these really bad muscular spasms in her legs, her arms. They give her this certain medication. And she said, yeah, usually when the phenomena happens is when I'm having seizures in the muscles. When then other people, they said, it's odd when I take the medication, the seizures stop, the phenomena stops. And so it varies depending on the individual, but I feel very comfortable saying that the majority of people who are epileptic will never, if they live for 1,000 years with this problem, they'd never have any RSPK around them, ever. But fortunately, the majority of the people who are poltergeist agents may have anything from simple focal seizures all the way up to grand mal. And I met a woman, 5 years ago online, never met her in person, potential dating material. She looks like a young Joan Collins. And, she was epileptic when she was young. Supposedly outgrew it, hopefully for her, I hope. And a lot of poltergeist activity around her. We talked about things happening around her. But when I looked at her picture online, even though she's gorgeous, to me, I said to her, excuse me, but I got to ask this question. I said, you look like you're in really bad health. You look like you're sick, even though she looks gorgeous. Yeah, she's been sick almost her entire life. She was born a blue baby, had her umbilical cord wrapped around her throat. If she'd been a boy, she would have died. Thank God she didn't die. I never met her, but it's the same old thing. How many coincidences make a fact? 100, 1,000, a million, a billion? At what point you say, all right, what's going on? And this is all the tip of the iceberg. I've met other people, both men and women, over the decades who, and they don't even think of bringing up. You ask them medical questions, and finally epilepsy. I say, oh, I'm glad you reminded me of that. Yes, I've suffered from this for a long time. Yeah, the fact the phenomena began not long after the epilepsy started. But again, if you interviewed a lot of patients who are epileptic, never had any phenomena around them, and hopefully never will. So the question is, what is it? They could do PET scan, you could do functional MRIs, a whole bunch of things you could do to really pin this down, medically speaking. But it would cost a lot of money, and your medical career would end abruptly.
I don't really comprehend why this isn't something that medical science wants to come to terms with. I mean, seriously, our government looked at weaponizing psi skills.
Yeah.
And did, actually, during the Cold War.
Yeah, but see, the whole thing is, it's sort of like, you look, most of the science that's investigated and researched in academia or in financial institutions that are, whatever, there's an end to it, meaning they produce something that results in something tangible, meaning medical research will produce medications that'll get rid of medical, or will prevent things, or will cure things, or will heal things. Right now, this stuff is very unreliable. It's very inconsistent. There's too many unknown variables about it, and there's no theory that explains it all.
But that's because there's no money going into it.
Right.
Stanton Friedman said about different, propulsion systems, throw enough money at it, we'll hit, light speed.
Right. Now,
this stuff, if you throw enough money to it, then you will do the same.
In that regard, there was a Dr. Ben Rich, about 26 years ago, giving a lecture at UCLA Alumni Engineering. And he was at the time, he was the ex-head of Lockheed Skunk Works, built the U-2, the SR-71, and whatever came after that. Okay, so he's talking about things, and he's very open about the fact that, we have things flying that would make George Lucas drool. And we've learned how to take E.T. home in real time. Now we learned there's a way to navigate through interstellar space very quickly. So I went up to him afterwards, and I said, Dr. Rich, he goes, Ben, okay, Ben, the technology you're speaking of, did you develop or did you acquire it?
Good question.
He goes, what do you think? Because I think the latter. He goes, you may be right. And I said, will this ever come to fruition? He asked how old I was. I was in my 40s then. He goes, no. It would change everything. It's not simply a better way to fly. It's a change. If we discovered another form of energy that's ubiquitous, that we can access, that doesn't produce heat as we know it, but can do work without heat as we know it, the world changes forever. We don't need coal, we don't need oil, we don't need gasoline, we don't need hydroelectric, we don't need nuclear, we need none of it. It's game's over. The world can power itself free of heat and pollution indefinitely. We could fly anyone on Earth in under an hour. We have the ultimate means of improving the human condition. We also have the ultimate weapon.
Yes.
There's a good degree of evidence, if you listen to the work of Richard Dolan, he's a great writer, that there's been a secret space program for some time that goes way beyond that goes way beyond what the Apollo program and the space shuttle were all about. And this might involve some form of faster than light or like warp drive technology.
Are you talking about the 20 plus 10 program?
Yeah.
Okay, yes. I've talked to people that said they were involved in that were actually members of that.
The idea that, there have been some of the UFOs we see around are ours, others are not.
Yes, I'm aware of that.
And there was an incident called the Cash Landrum case in December 1980 that occurred right after the Bentwaters Forest event. These two women and their nephew, they're driving home in Dayton, Texas, and they come upon this strange object hovering. It's like a diamond shape, and it's emitting a lot of light. They get tremendous heat. They get out, and it hurts their eyes. The boy was behind them. They go back to the car. The car was almost too hot to touch. And anyway, whatever it was being shepherded by 20 Chinook helicopters, twin-rotor helicopters, and shepherded it with UFO. It emitted a lot of heat, some flame beneath it. It melted the highway, which conveniently was repaired the very next day. And when does that happen?
Done if it's not something like that.
Right. Anyway,
20
long
years later.
story short, one of the women, I forgot which one off the top of my head, becomes very ill and ends up killing her as radiation poisoning, radiation sickness. Her hair started falling out, her skin damage, problem with her eyes. Luckily, for what I've read, the boy, the nephew, didn't have any damage, but the other woman had little effects. Similar with major effects were more like neutron and gamma ray emission. Question is, what was this? We don't know. Something flying without wings and a tail that's hovering, melting the road beneath it. And then all the medical data for the woman that ended up dying of the radiation sickness has disappeared from the hospital she was in.
That's convenient.
So it's, same old, same old. There are things out there we'll never know about. The TR-3, the Lockheed Martin TR-3B, maybe one of them, they call it the Black Manta or the Astra or Astar, something like that. There's so much out there. One on my website, there's one of the lengthy articles that said, what is it called? Oh, it's about flying, about aviation technology, and it's Come Fly With Me, the last plane standing. It's all about, talks about the Aurora, the follow-on to the SR-71, and other technology, and, well, it's just amazing to think that there are trillions of dollars being pumped into building jets and rockets, and yet we may have something in the background that makes all of them look like a joke or a toy. So it's, and this is interesting. Yeah, and also what's interesting on this, we had a number of cases over the years, some women, some men, that began as an alleged fake class, but that began as an alleged abduction and turned in would have paranormal fallout, or began as having paranormal experiences like poltergeist activity and evolved into a CE 3 or 4. And why this is, God only knows. Jacques Vallée has been writing about this for a long time. The late Scott Rogo wrote about this occasionally, and this is showing up in my files occasionally. And why? I don't know. Except that
I like a man that can say that.
But the one thing my guess would be that whatever the UFOs are, especially if the ones that aren't ours, that they have technology that uses forces or energies that we might call paranormal because we don't know anymore. We just don't know any better.
Well, when you get into extreme paranormal experiences, there's often the shimmer, the heat shimmer, the opening, the portal, which could be a transportation method, or for God's sakes, it could be the opening of a wormhole, for all we know.
Yeah.
And I've seen heat shimmers coming at me in haunted locations. That's exactly what it looks like, is a heat shimmer. Mm-hmm. So, and that's when I was indoor, and it's not hot. Mm-hmm. So, it's just, there's all kinds of odd correlations between the studies.
Mm-hmm. Now, it's, like I said, wouldn't it be shocking to learn that, we have technology that could forever change the life of everyone on Earth? And it's being withheld because, one, it would create more problems than it would solve. Imagine if tomorrow the United States and the UK and France and Germany and Austria made the disclosure that, well, we had contact with extraterrestrials for decades. Some are friendly, some aren't, and we've allowed them to abduct people, and they gave us toys to play with for that privilege. that wouldn't go over real well. It
would
then
not.
people.
And I mean, it doesn't with people that are firmly convinced that this is happening based on a treaty entered into by governments.
Right.
So.
Right. But also, here's the problem. It goes worse than that. If this were proven or demonstrated to be valid, we'd have an inconceivable past and unimaginable future. It would change the entire nature of religion. What if we, hey, guess what? One of these races helped create the human race. It was basically intelligent, an intelligent creation, but God may have had no more to do with it than when we clone an animal.
Well, I'm going to say that I actually heard someone I respect a lot address that very topic last summer. And he said, you know what? I've never lost sight of my God through all of this because everything came from a creator. Something started everything, no matter how many galaxies, how many universes there are.
Right.
If they're infinite, someone or something, there is still a creator. And that is why I've never lost my God. And that person was Eric von Däniken.
Right.
And I heard him reiterate that a couple of different times in a couple of different ways, but that was the one that really struck me. Because I had wondered that too. What if? It's going to be a game changer.
Right. Well, for people like yourself, ourself, the person you just referenced, it'd be great. But for other people, it'd be shattering. It would disenfranchise the entire planet.
Yes.
And if we think that we're already having problems with people screaming in the name of their God, running into a holy war, this could trigger the Third World War. It would be, we wouldn't know who we were, why are we here, and then, there's aliens, when every group would want to get aliens on their side to help them.
Not thinking that was done a long time ago.
Well,
you know what? We have to take our last break.
Okay.
But when we come back, I want to hear about what you're doing. I know you've got a book in the works and such, and I would like to have that discussion.
Okay.
So we will be right back, guys. 2 minutes.
You are listening to WBHM Digital Broadcasting, the best in paranormal talk, only on Paranormal Experience Radio. Broadcasting live out of Birmingham, Alabama. Thank you for listening to WBHM Digital Broadcasting out of Birmingham, Alabama. The time is 45 minutes after the hour. Welcome back to this final segment on Fate Mag Radio with Dr. Barry Taff. I am Kat Hobson, your host,
And Dr. Taff, I would like it if you could just maybe tell me about your new book, because I'm so curious and want it out.
Well, the new book is in some ways similar to the old one, but it's got a lot more information. There are basically 17 chapters that were not included in the first book. It's going to upset a lot of people. It's going to create a great deal of controversy. I kind of, in some way, shaped the book to deal with the current state of political insanity engulfing our culture, and to demonstrate to demonstrate the problems the society is facing. And I ask a lot of important questions. I pose even more difficult ones to deal with. And I can't give the title of it. It's one of two. I haven't decided on which one. It'll probably be based on whoever publishes it. But I have two titles in mind. One was suggested to me by a good friend. I should reference that I have a very old friend. I've known him since 1973. There was a famous writer by the name of Richard Matheson. He did 14 Twilight Zones in Outer Limits. 14 Twilight Zones, Star Trek. He worked in everything. The old series with Kolchak, the Night Stalker, was his thing, and very creative man. He wrote everything. Somewhere in Time, A Legend of Hell House. Anyway, I met him and his son March of 1973. They walked in our lab at UCLA. Turns out Richard Christian Matheson, the son, he and I have the same birth date, month, day, and time, but he's 4 years younger than me. And we found all these really bizarre synchronicities between us that make no sense other than the fact that we have the same birthday and time. And on my website, there's an article called Very, Very Personal and Enduring Synchronicities, and it all has to do with Richard and myself. Very quickly, my favorite episode of The Twilight Zone came from the second to last season, which was an hour long. It was written by Richard Matheson, the father, called Death Ship, starred Ross Martin and Jack Klugman. I love the episode for many reasons. And it was interesting because I remember after that show aired, and of course I saw who wrote it, I said, I've got to meet this man. I was like 14 years old. How am I going to meet him? I don't know nothing about him. No, forgot about it. 10 years later to the day, Richard Matheson, the father who wrote the episode, and the son, Richard Christian Matheson, came into our lab. And we worked together on a couple things that never got off the ground, but I've remained friends with Richard for more than 30 years, 36 years now. And the synchronicities between us are so bizarre that it's just every time I discuss them or even reference them on my own website, I get goosebumps because it's like, what? What does it mean? I don't know. Unlike me, he was more fortunate in some areas. He's very tall, which I'm not. He has better hair than I ever did. He's a better writer than I am, but he doesn't write science. He writes, horror and drama. He's not that much into science fiction. But the linkage between us, it's just amazing. It's when my mother passed away 10 years ago, I told Richard about it, and he said, what was your mother's name? Now, he met my parents. We were very young, and he didn't remember her. What was your mother's name? And I said, Ruth. He went, what? Ruth? Yeah. Are you sure? Yeah, I think I know my mom's name. He goes, my mother's name is Ruth. I went, huh?
Just another one.
Yeah, when his father passed away in 2013, I was having dinner with friends. I got the notice, and I go, oh, no. And then I thought, why does this date seem important? His father passed away on my father's birthday.
Good
That's
heavens.
Just and these are the simplest ones. It goes way beyond that. Again, the more you know, the stranger it gets. With this, it just, and the link, like, there was a famous actor, he's dead now, named Edward Andrews. If you watch TV during the 50s, 60s, 70s, he was in everything other than Star Trek. always played a heavy villain. I always thought I knew the man. Ever since I was a kid, I saw his picture, heard his face, heard his body language. I know him. Okay, I get a call in 1981 to go out to Mrs. Edward Andrews calls me to go out to visit their house in Pacific Palisades. There's poltergeist activity. Okay, so I walk in and come out. I meet the wife first because I already spoke to her. I go up to meet Edward, very tall man, about 6'4", and he looks at me, shook hands. He goes, "You look really familiar. Do we know each other?" And then what was I going to say? Yeah, I've known you since I was a kid, but we don't know how. Okay, I didn't say that. Then his daughter comes out. I forgot what her real name was, but I remember what her nickname was. It was Taffy, Taffy. I go, really? Why did you nickname her Taffy? They go, we don't know. I said, I do. You are? Never mind you. So why? I don't know. These things are. But ever since I first saw him as a kid, I know him. I know the voice. I know the face. I know the body language. I know the man. Well, of course, we somehow knew each other, and we'll never know why. The one female actress that I've always been enamored with was Joan Collins. And in June of 1976, I made it the front page of the LA Times View section for the case on Hollymont Drive in Hollywood. Got a lot of attention. It could have been better. The article could have been a hell of a lot worse. Okay, so the article.
Gotta take it for what it is.
Right. If you turn the page over, my picture's on the front page. If you turn that page over, guess whose picture is on the back of mine? Joan Collins.
Oh, that is rich.
I'm going like there's no other actress that I was that enamored with, that she was it. I had several girlfriends that looked like her. I'm going, what? What does it mean? I don't know. I don't know. So, the meaning of it all will...
fun.
Well, but see, everyone has to interpret them differently. Most people, they're just curious linkages, atemporal or acausal linkages. To others, they mean something different. It all depends on the people and their lives. With me, massive synchronicities have always meant be very careful, you're on thin ice, it may break and you will drown. That's synchronicities. To me, I've interpreted them. And so far, it's been quite accurate. So when these synchronicities pop up with me and friends or whatever, acquaintances, relationship, I beg off really fast. Because if I don't, there's going to be a problem. And rather than run the risk, it's
easier to be cautious.
Well, this
or maybe
woman
better to be cautious rather than easier.
Better to be safe than be sorry.
Yes.
It's all I know is the girl I met years ago, but never met in person. I won't give her name out because it's not relevant, but her name. I've never known another girl with that name. And suddenly, in the last 18 months, or 2 years, I should say, 6 more women with that same name have popped up around me. Yet I've never known anyone with that name in my life.
How odd.
Yes, and I said, well, there must be me to all this. And then as the attempted relationship with the first woman who had that name was stalled because of her lies to me and misdirection and her own problem, I'm going, that's a more, again, this is a woman's very attractive, looks like very much like a young Joan. To the point where it's scary. But she's a little strange and a little maybe too strange. Of course, she's half my age, so that by itself is a problem. But it's just...
Hi, Dr. Taff. We're all very strange. Venus and Mars is not just a book.
Yeah. It's, what's that word, stranger in a strange land?
Yes.
From a long time ago. The whole point of it is when suddenly something out of the ordinary pops up, and then there's recurring elements of that over and over, like reality saying, "Be careful, be careful, be really careful here." And luckily, with this woman, I was never given the opportunity to meet her, and that's good, because if we had met, it might have gotten really bad for whatever reason.
Do you believe in past lives?
Yes.
I was just curious, given a couple of the things that you said, and Frank in chat said if it wasn't for strange women, he would never have dated at all.
Yeah, I mean, I most women think I'm nuts. Yeah, they think one would think I'm nuts, or I make them look normal. They make me look normal, which is it's a disaster waiting to happen.
And that's where we came in.
Yep.
I have just been enjoying this so much. I cannot believe that we are so close to being out of time. We have not even covered. We haven't even covered half my page. So
a lot of things to go through after 50 years.
Well, you've just done so many interesting things, and we didn't even get into geomagnetism. We didn't even get into seismic versus volcanic. We didn't get into a lot of different things that I am so interested in learning from you. So we will definitely find a good date for you to come back.
Well,
because
I'm always around, so there shouldn't be a problem.
Well, I'm already being told he has to come back, please, and chat. So it's a good thing we talked about that.
Yep.
Why don't you tell people the best ways that they can find you and find your book? Unless,
well, as far as I know, my book is no longer being published. You probably could find copies of it on Amazon. Maybe some new remain behind. Some old people, like read a book and they just sell it back because they don't need it anymore. But it's not being published. There were some problems with it because a new publisher, and there were lots of printing problems. So the formatting was all screwed up and spelling problems. I went through the book. It was fine. And suddenly, like, what's this? So the new book will compensate for that. The new book is going to be far more in-depth. And the new book is going to really deal with elements of my life I've never spoken of before, as I've spoken of earlier, why all the major psychokinetic events are happening around me at this time. I don't know.
I find that interesting.
It's a good way to scare away new friends and prevent old ones from coming back.
Oh, you are such a mess. Well, I have really enjoyed this, and the discussion on the PK agents.
Right.
Yes, thank you. Yes, I am just so interested by it because I had my own experiences and went through testing, and it's just a very interesting thing for me. So when I was reading your book, I was like, hey, wait, what? So, because I'm not aware, like I told you, of poltergeistic activity around me. I'm aware of other things. Mm-hmm. But it's just neat. And I love being able to get the information from the source like this. And I'm so looking forward to continued chats with you.
Yeah, neither mile will be fun. It won't be boring, as we say.
Well, that's like the worst sin is to be boring.
Right, exactly.
So, and I also love, because I know you're from LA, because you describe people by stars that they remind you of, and I think that's fun.
Yeah.
Because you see them. So.
Yep, exactly.
And that being said, we're out of time. I have had such a wonderful time visiting with you.
As have I talking to you. It's been great.
Thank you. And
okay, then we'll talk soon.
We will talk soon. Thank you so much.
Okay, we'll talk later then.
All right.
Have a good day. All right, bye-bye.
You too. And for everyone listening, this has been fantastic. I have so much appreciation for all of you, and I hope y'all enjoyed Dr. Barry Taff. He will be joining us again. And I'm going to call it. Thank you again. Don't forget, same cat time, same cat channel, Fate Mag Radio. And while you're at it, pick up the copy of the new Fate magazine, and www.fatemag.com to subscribe. You will absolutely love it. This issue is kicking. So, talk to y'all soon. Y'all have a fantastic week. Tomorrow night, Paranormal Pride. Wednesday night, Paranormal Experience. Thursday night, Periscope Uncensored. Friday night, It's Long, Paraversal Universe, Ghost Talk Radio, and Tripping the Void with Seraphine Hurley. And then you'll be back to me. Y'all have a great week. Don't forget Sri Lanka. Keep them in your prayers. Y'all take care now. Good night.